The war in Iran is chaotic right now, whether you support it or not. Everyone's wondering how ugly could this turn into. If you look at the doomsday clock when they started in the late 40s by policy experts and scientists, it's at 85 seconds to midnight. It's never been this bad. So everyone's wondering, could this turn into a possible big nuclear war? And when has a regime change worked? When has a regime collapse worked? When we hear about regime changes, is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Today I'm going to talk to you about the 8 possible consequences of how this war could end, from worst case scenario to best case scenario. Okay, so before we get into it, I have one request for you. 51% of you that consume our content on Valuetainment are not subscribers. If you haven't yet subscribed, do us a favor, click on that subscribe button. It allows us to do more things, bring better interviews to you. Having said that, let's get right into it. Regime change versus regime collapse. What's the difference? So regime change is you depose existing government of another country and replace it with new leadership. So, for instance, back in the days, Mossadegh was the leader in Iran. He decided to nationalize all the oil. It affected all the oil to other countries around the world. BP was in there. They came in and said, no, we're not going to be doing this. Let's bring the Shah of Iran. Mohammad Reza Shah Pahlavi shows up in 1953. That's regime change. Iran, for the most part, in the Middle East becomes peaceful for the next 26 years. But regime collapse is what happened with rapid breakdown of a government where leaders lose the ability to control the state, leads to power structures falling apart. In 1979 in Iran, that was a regime collapse. Mohammad Reza Shah Pahlavi, monarchy, he's running the country, boom, replace him with Khomeini, Islamic Revolutionary Guard. That's a complete collapse. So the first one is a change, the other one is a collapse. Now let's continue. Regime change. Iraq, 2003, regime change. Planning, strategic. Who drives it? Foreign governments, coups. Cause, deliberate removal. That's what they did. Hey, let's get this guy out of here. That's a regime change. Regime collapse, Soviet Union. What happened back in the day? Say, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. Or communism, it was so chaotic. Everybody was worried about communism being accepted by everybody. No, we cannot have this communism thing be a massive thing that people accept. We got to get rid of this. They did. Iran revolution, we talked about. The planning, super chaotic. So if we're going through the collapse, super chaotic, citizens, economy, military defection hasn't happened to Iran fully yet. The citizens, yes, but military turning against the government saying, listen, I can't support you anymore. And then obviously the internal breakdown. That's Iran, by the way, Venezuela. What just happened with Venezuela, Maduro? It's somewhat-ish a regime change, even though his VP is still there. It is an ish regime change. But let's continue. When you look at this, regime change methods. Number 1 is direct military action. Number 2, covert operations, secretly funding, like not necessarily a proxy, but secretly funding, training, or inciting opposition in country. And in coercive diplomacy, sanctions, embargoes, rarely works, but we use that card every once in a while. Why does U.S. do regime change? 1, containment, domino theory. Example, Cold War, enemy communism. Communism, if it would have spread, and that ideology that was spreading would have won, it would have been bad for everybody. It would say, well, we need to kind of go through the system. They had to put a stop to it. I believe that was a right move. Number 2, protecting economic interests, ex-Panama, 1989. Number 3, preemptive strikes, Bush doctrine, preventing terrorism, example, the Great War, you don't understand, they have weapons of mass destruction. We had weapons of mass destruction. That is something that a lot of military guys that went to fight over that lost their buddies like, wait a minute, you will never get me on this ever again, which makes sense. And then number 4, liberal interventionism, stop human rights violation. It's not fair what you're doing to people, and that's a whole different approach. Now, methods. Number 1, coercive actions, using CIA for psychological warfare, which, by the way, it's happening right now in a big way. Funding opposition groups, orchestrating military coups, Iran 53, Chile 73 with Pinochet. That's that. Number 2, conventional warfare, direct invasion, boots on the ground, Panama, Iraq. We're trying to avoid that with Iran, although we've had multiple leaders on Trump's administration that have said, we have to keep all the options out there. We may need to use it. We don't know yet, right? But he doesn't want to use it. You've heard that. Okay, number 3, proxy warfare. Army training local insurgent groups to destabilize the government in Nicaragua in the 1980s. And some of the people right now are saying, well, wait a minute, the Kurds, what they're doing, isn't that kind of what you're doing? Are we giving them weapons? And they said, listen, we're not giving them weapons. Israel may, but we're not giving them weapons. So some of that. And then number 4 is economic coercion, right? Sanctions, trade embargoes intended to incite domestic unrest, which we have done to Iran for a long time. But this alone doesn't fully work all the time for regime change. So question becomes, has it ever worked? How often does it fail? Because you'll hear people saying, it never works, it always fails. Let's look at this. 5 examples of success, 5 examples of failure. And by the way, success doesn't mean 100% it worked. It means whether there was a success short term. We were able to get rid of this regime. So that's a success. Whether it lasts long term, 10, 20, 30 years, that's a different definition of success. It all depends on how we measure success. So, for example, examples of success. Number 1, Operation Ajax. This was Mossadegh. He came in, all the major oil companies like, wait a minute, this guy wants to nationalize. He doesn't want to do business. We can't have a guy like this. Let's bring Reza Pahlavi. And he comes in, he stays for 26 years, and the rest is history. And during that time, when that was going on, of course, CIA was involved, MI6 was involved. A lot of people were involved. Guatemala, 1954, Operation PB Success. Chile, 1973. Grenada, 1983, Operation Urgent Fury, not Epic Fury. And then 5, Panama, 1989, Operation Just Cause that they went through. These are successes at the time. Failures, Cuba, 61, Bay of Pigs. What happened? Cuba's still a communistic, which, by the way, if this goes through, you know what's going to happen with Cuba? Let's just say they succeed with Iran and they did with Venezuela. They're just going to go saying, hey, Cuba? Yeah. All right. Come on, guys. Let you kind of move out the way. You're going to be like Puerto Rico, and let's allow us to bring some hotels and kind of fix this place and tourism and all this stuff. Everyone's going to win. It's okay. Communism failed. No one's using it anymore. You no longer have China, Russia's backing. Soviet Union's not there to back you. They haven't been there for a while. What the hell are we doing? Let's move on. You start creating business, and that could happen anytime. Then we got Vietnam, 55 to 75. Another failure. Afghanistan, probably the biggest failure. And then you got Iraq. Some people would call Iraq the biggest failure, but Afghanistan's on that list as well. And then Libya, we know how that one ended as well. So now, and so by the way, when we're looking at the whole Iran regime change, regime collapse, there's one thing I want you to pay attention to. So 1953, Operation Ajax. You know who was president? A Republican president, Eisenhower. Interesting. All right. So they came in, they're like, no, we're not going communism. We're going to go pro-capitalism. And then you have the 1979 revolution with the great blowback. President Carter, Democrat, he said he was going to help. He did not. What happened? Regime collapse, okay? Without, like we almost kind of said, no, we're going to help you. No, we have your back. Don't worry about it. It's going to be great. Boom. We did nothing. IRGC came in, shit show since 1979 because of Carter. And in 2026, Operation Epic Fury, Republican Trump. So if you notice, one side is like, well, we'll kind of work with you. We'll kind of, we'll do this and we'll be, no, Khomeini was more like a Gandhi. He's going to come and make Iran. So you don't want somebody like a Pahlavi who is all about wealth and money and all this stuff. It's the language. That's the propaganda part that works. So now, while you're watching everybody today debate this topic, whether you know it or not, everyone falls in one of these handful of camps that's out there. Let me explain to you what this camp is. First camp is the Israel First Hawks. I don't care what happens. We have to have Israel's back no matter what. We got to protect. If they're doing this, we got to go to. That's the Israel Hawks. Number 2 is the Trump royalists. Hey, I think this is the right guy. I voted for this guy. I support this guy. I think he's doing the right thing. I support his decision. And I'm excited about what's going to be happening. I'm a little bit uncertain. I'm a little worried, but I'm supporting him. Number 3 is the establishment media. The main Fox, CNN, MSNBC. They're kind of like, well, Khamenei's a bad guy. Well, he kind of had to go. But Mark Kelly, well, I don't know. I'm glad he was taken out. But, they're supportive, but they're still kind of like, what happened to the congressional? They need to go through Congress, a little bit of that. Then you have the America First. I can't believe you're doing this. This is crazy. Israel owns U.S. It's a puppet. Bibi's running everything. I'm voting Democrat moving forward. And that's the America First. Some of the people there that are supporting that. And then you're going to have a radical left, the lunatics. You know how they are. They're complete. There's nothing he can do right. That's the radical left. And on the Iran side, you have one side that's supporting this. It's the majority. 80+% of Iranians are sick and tired of having a country being ran by a supreme leader. They're done with that judgment. Leave me alone. Let me live my life. It's a different world we're living in today with social media where you can no longer hide. And no matter how many times you're trying to cancel the internet so we can't see what's going on with the world, we're sick of the way You've brainwashed us and manipulated our parents for decades. It's done. Get out the way. Then the small percentage that says, I don't know if I want, I don't know if I want to get to this one. I don't know about, and that's the part. Those are the camps. You pick and choose which one you're in and what you decide to be part of. But those are the 6 camps that we have right now. Now let's cover this here. Okay, and this one here got very big. And it is what could happen. 8 different scenarios of what could happen in Iran, from worst case to best case. What's the worst case? Samson option. Total nuclear destruction. First person, drops it. And then from there, you know what? Let me just take if you're going to kill me, I'm killing everybody with me when I'm going down, right? That's what I'm doing. Number 2, dark successor. So yes, we took out Khamenei. Yes, we took out 50 plus leaders. Yes, we took out all these different sites. But the next guy that comes is even worse than the existing guy that they have. Maybe it's not a nuclear war, but they stay. But even a worse radical leader takes over Iran. Number 3 is the Syrification of Iran, okay? This is fracture state. They're kind of trying to figure it out. And what are we going to do? It kind of stays chaotic for a while, and everyone's kind of trying to figure out, and we're still kind of funding, trying to help out. But it can't stand alone on its own. Number 4 is the stalemate, status quo. U.S. goes to war for 4 to 5 weeks. We eventually run out of ammo. We run out of all these, interceptors, and we're like, you know what, guys? Let's just kind of finish it up. IRGC stays in power. Everything stays there, but stalemate. Nothing takes place. Number 5, a military leader takes over. So it's now ran by the military. Number 6 is the Persian Spring, citizen uprising, new government, kind of like what happened in 1979 with the revolution against the Shah. But the people come in, they're like, no, we're done with this. We got to do something about it. 7 is the Marshall Plan, similar to what we did with Europe. We decide to say, all right, the world, let's start investing into Iran. We're going to do this and we're going to fix this thing, economic recovery, heavy outside investments. And, just like we did with Europe. And by the way, Europe, they ended up spending around $130 billion in today's money to $150 billion. But also, you know how much money we spent in Africa with the Marshall Plan? We've had nearly 50 plus or so Marshall Plans in Africa. You know how much money we've spent in Africa on Marshall Plans since 1960-ish? What do you think the number is? 200 billion? 300 billion? Why don't you fact check this? It's somewhere around $5 trillion. We've invested to try to fix Africa. That hasn't worked. So it worked in Europe. It's a heavy investment. The world's going to want to be a part of it, and it could happen. But it definitely didn't happen in Africa when that was going on. So Marshall Plan could be the last one, 7th one. And last but not least is the great bargain. Iran becomes cultural paradise. You go there, Frank Sinatra music playing in the background. Everyone's happy, everyone's dancing, everyone's going to Cabaret Tehran, everyone's, by Caspian Sea. Oh my God, this is great. Businesses flood in. It's just going to be heaven on earth. Next, Christmas, you're going to say, honey, let's not go to Hawaii. Let's not go to Bahamas. Let's go to Tehran, Iran. It's going to be awesome. It's like the closest thing to heaven. You obviously realize the likelihood of this happening is pretty slim, okay? If it happens, I'll be the first one celebrating. You know what else is pretty slim? Here's the other thing that's pretty slim. This guy here. Both of these are slim. We're going to end up somewhere around here. I am hopeful. I am rooting for this thing to get done properly. I think the sequencing on the way they did it, it's fascinating to me. If this is actually what they did, it's brilliant. So you mean to tell me your number one enemy is China, and China signed a 25-year, $400 billion deal with Iran. Russia is not negotiating with you to help you get the peace done with Ukraine because you said on day one, I will finish the war with Ukraine and Russia, and it hasn't happened yet. And Russia got the plans on how to build the Shahed drones that Iran's building for only $20,000, and now they're building their own drones. So they're like, hey, we kind of need Iran to be good. And so you mean to tell me U.S. first goes and gets Venezuela first? So if China, 55% of the oil they rely on comes from Venezuela, and the other 85%, whatever that they get from the Strait of Hormuz comes from Iran. And you mean to tell me those two all of a sudden are under control of U.S.? So Venezuela's controlling here, and then you go and make the Supreme Court of Panama to get rid of C.K. Hutchinson so China doesn't have any control in Panama Canal. If they retaliate, and then you go to Iran, and in the middle of this thing that's taking place, they're down missiles attacking by 86%, according to Wall Street Journal, You've taken out all these different places. Iran royally screwed up, attacked 10 other Gulf states, making enemies that are their neighbors, forcing your neighbors to become friends of Israel. What? Forcing these neighbors to all of a sudden say we're siding with Israel over Iran? Double dumb. But if this is actually what happened, this may go down in the history books as one of the greatest case studies. Negotiation by raising the temperature so high on China and Russia and saying, hey, you better not get involved. I'm just telling you right now. I'll do a deal with you because now you need oil from us, or you need oil from Venezuela, or you need oil from Iran. That's going through us. You better make a deal with us and don't get involved. Hey, Russia, you too, don't get involved. Maybe we broker a deal. Now, again, that's if they're doing that, you got to give them credit, which I know the media won't. But if that's what they're doing, that's why we voted this person in, President Donald Trump, and I'm rooting for him to succeed. But the reality of it is, this is a lot nastier than anybody can tell you behind closed doors. I'm hopeful, I'm optimistic, I'm naturally coming from a place of future looks bright, and I actually voted for the Islamic Revolutionary Guard to be gone. It was one of the questions that I asked President Trump in the interview when he was here with me, and I said, what plans will you use? He says, I don't know. Everything is different. As a strategist, we're always going to be very fluid. So having said that, two things. If you want the notes from what we covered today, click on a link below or the QR code here. Go to Minex Circle. We're going to give you the notes to you for free. Number two, I made a video 7 years ago titled History of U.S.-Iran Conflict. If you've never seen this is 2019. I was bald back then. I would shave 0 and 1. So you may want to go check this clip out. A lot of people started asking me about Iran back in the days, and I finally made a clip. Back in the days, I used to draw wood paint, wood color, so you'll see what the format is. But that's an old school video if you haven't seen it. And to the 51% of you, if you haven't yet, click that subscribe button. Take care, everybody. God bless. Bye-bye, bye-bye.